Hello guys, it's Dean here again, and we're doing Maverick's Moment podcast, and I am joined by the amazingly talented Aleks from The Social Way in Manchester, and we're going to be talking about her crazy journey from big agency to startup and all the crazy and amazing stuff she's doing with Facebook and Instagram. If you haven't met Aleks before, Aleks, we can find you on LinkedIn, Facebook and Instagram, I assume.
Yes, it's just /Aleks Certa, so ALEKSCERTA across all of them platforms.
Awesome. It would be a bit strange if your business is about Facebook and Instagram if you weren't on them, wouldn't it?
Correct.
So, Aleks, tell me a little bit about your background, because you've been working with some big behemoth companies in the past. Tell
Correct.
me what you were doing and a bit of your background.
Sure. So I started at the massive agency at Mediacom, and I've been there for 10 years in various roles. But where I started was in direct response TV.
Cool.
So it was very, very traditional, numbers driven. And then I kind of progressed to be more client facing, and still very much in the response section. And this is when I started getting involved more with Facebook, Instagram campaigns, etc. So I've progressed in the ranks at Mediacom, and I was associate director level. So my role was more strategic and more driving the team rather than being involved in the nitty-gritty. But I've been involved with some really, really cool campaigns, and I thought there is something there. There's something there with Facebook and Instagram. So I've decided to upskill myself. So that was alongside my day job.
Wow.
And I've done like a few courses in it, and I thought I wanna be more involved with day to day of actually doing the campaigns. And I always had it in my background, in the back of my head, that I wanna start my own business. So both my mum and dad, they have their own companies, and I come from quite an entrepreneurial Polish family. So I thought, what better way to do it and just to go for it and see what's out there. And I'm a big believer that when you jump, the net will appear. So that kind of happened because I had my first client before I even left the agency.
Wow. That's a really interesting saying, that if you jump, the net will appear, because often we like it the other way round, don't we? We like everything planned out and perfect, and almost like, we quit the day job and then we move into the entrepreneurial venture and it's all hunky-dory. But it sounds like you did a lot of prep, but was it as easy, that transition, as you thought?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. So I didn't even know that, but I became very institutionalized, being at the agency and having a lot of people around you, etc. And then suddenly I had none of it. So I started going to co-working space. That's the first thing I did to surround myself with people. And I still do that now. So the way my week is, it's a bit of a mixture. So I work from client offices, I work from home, and I work from co-working. And I quite like this balance. And another thing that I was missing was some sort of mentorship. So I found it. I found it quite early on, actually. And I found a person that's kind of been there, done it, and can advise me on bits and pieces. So that person is Emma Van Heusen, and she's been amazing throughout the last year.
And that journey, that transition, it is a different mindset, isn't it? From
completely.
From being like, you go in, you come home, and for the most part, when you're in a more responsible position, you can actually shift and go home and turn off. But then when when it's your own business, even the things that have gone well are still whizzing around in your head in an evening, or the things that haven't gone so well, they're still whizzing around in your head in the evening. How did you cope with that kind of like mental shift?
So I have to be very strict with myself. I have to, like, there's no work after 4, and I sometimes do it late in the evening if I have to finish stuff, but I tend not to. So I don't work between 4 and 8, and the reason for it is because I've got a young daughter. She's only 3 now, so she still very much needs me. And I'm not saying when you get older, you don't need your parents, but when they're that young, they do.
Yeah.
And my daughter's got a quite rare condition as well, so there is more work involved.
Mm.
So she's one of 360 million. No, sorry, she's one in 360 million. That's it, in the world. So there's only 26 kids like that.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's been quite a challenge, but at the same time, it forces me to be there for her, because she actually says to me, "Come back, mummy," when I pick up my phone when I'm with her. So she actually says, "Come back," as if I've gone somewhere. It's quite powerful, really, when your kid says that to you, and you kind of think, well, actually, I'm not. Even though I'm physically here, in my mind,
Yeah.
I'm not. So yeah, I do have to be strict with that.
So that's quite a challenge, isn't it? You've got a young daughter. Obviously, she's got needs from mum. You've got the business, which is like another child, which needs mum.
Yeah.
But Facebook and Instagram,
Yeah.
given that that's your core business, showing people how to use it, but also working with businesses to get the best out of it.
Sure.
Just briefly, does this spoil the networks for you when it's your day job? Because how do you not go on Facebook and not work?
I to be honest with you, I don't. I always work when I'm on it, because even when I'm there for pleasure, let's say, to speak to friends or whatever, I always spot adverts, and I just have to screen grab it or save it for later.
Yeah.
You always get inspiration, and sometimes it's from weird brands or whatever it's served on your feed, and you kind of think, oh, let me try that. Recently, I've noticed quite a lot of brands are doing testimonial copy in a headline.
Okay.
So I've been testing that for the brands I work with, and actually it's getting some good results. So yeah, but that inspiration just came from me browsing, really.
Yeah. So actually, most of us use Facebook, friends and family, but it's kind of like skewed for you because every time you go on, it'll automatically shift into work somehow.
Yeah.
So
yeah, every time, for sure.
yeah. Oh well. So tell me about. So a lot of people have obviously seen Facebook and think it's fantastic, but more and more kind of smaller businesses, we see these big huge brands using it, but
Sure.
there's people that are, from example, there's people who own like a small shop all the way through to people who employ 30, 40 people, and thinking, can I really compete on Facebook and Instagram these days? And are there any ways that is there a thought process or a way they should be thinking about using these that has changed in the last couple of years?
Yeah, I would say so. So because both networks are so massive, you can really narrow your audience to hit exactly who you want. So you can, for example, when you select interest-based audience, you can narrow it further and make sure you only hit people you really, really want that are spot on for your brand. And you can obviously have geographic restrictions, etc. So by learning who your ideal customer is and digging deep, you can only select them and limit the wastage in a way. So it's very different to the medium that I started in. So I obviously started in broadcast, and with broadcast, there's only that much limitation you can do, but you're still very much hitting math. But with Facebook, yeah, you can hit math because obviously it's got massive reach. But when you are a smaller business owner, you have to think narrowly and only hit people you really, really want. Another tip I would give you would be, because it's a social platform, sometimes people forget it and then just use it as a broadcast space. It's not like that. You should be you should be speaking as if you talking to that ideal customer and really send the message straight to that person, if that makes sense. So, social proof is massive. And I've worked with a massive brand over January, and actually using socially proofed adverts has been a huge hit for us. And that's even from a return on investment point of view. So by social proof, I mean a post or advert that's got loads of likes, comments, and shares. And algorithm will naturally pick that advert over any other because it's already a bit of a unicorn, a bit of a winner in Facebook eyes. So when you use it and bring it to your campaign, it goes straight at the relevancy score of 10. You're immediately getting traction, getting more comments, more likes. So it's just like a machine that keeps on turning.
So you said about social proof and relevance scores, and obviously relevance score, if people aren't familiar, if you're an owner of a business and perhaps you've got people to do this for you, they may not know what a relevance score is, but I know there's two, I'm not in this day to day like you are, but I know there's two key metrics in social ads you really need to keep an eye on. One being on Facebook, it's relevance score and click-through rate. Just talk a little bit about them. I know I don't want you to give all your secrets away and everything, but tell people a little bit about those two metrics and why they matter.
So the relevancy score is basically a quality control in Facebook eyes. So it looks at your audience and it looks at your actual advert and see how relevant is whatever you are saying is to your people, and then it scores you. So it scores you from 1 to 10, and 10 being the best, and 1 being poor. So if you get 1, that means your advert is a poor experience for a user on Facebook or Instagram. So wherever you are on a spectrum. So if, let's say I'm running a campaign and I get a relevancy score of 5 or 6, that's still fine because there are ways to improve it. If I get a relevancy score of like 3 and 4, I'll keep an eye on it for a couple of days. But if I'm not getting any better, I will switch it off. If I get 1 or 2, that's a switch off for me. In terms of the click-through rate, so obviously Facebook and advertising on it, it's a window to your shop, whatever you're selling, whether you're service-based, whether you have brick and mortar, or whether you are e-com. So the higher the better. So obviously when you're just going for a cold audience, then you're not going to go with click-through rate of 10, really, unless your offer is spectacular and it applies to everyone and anyone. So I would say for cold, go with, if you get click-through rate of 1, that's good. But for warm audience, anywhere above 3% is good.
Wow. Okay. So there's a rise, obviously, of people, social media marketing companies, and people go, well, why do I need these guys? Because I can do it myself. And I'm sure you've met people who have this argument of, I can do this myself. I can go onto Facebook and I can click and boost. And oddly enough, I've found some people spending anything from like 500 to thousands and thousands of pounds a month and not really know what they're doing. What space, and this, I'm not trying to plug you here, but what kind of space and value do you bring to those people who go, do you know what, I can do this myself?
So the question I would ask, if you can do it yourself, are you getting results? That's the main thing, really. And if you are, great. If I can come in and improve them results or tell you something you don't know, there's a value in it itself. I always say to businesses that are very reluctant, look, let's just do an audit and see where you're at. And if you're doing brilliantly, I will tell you so. If there are ways to improve it, again, I will tell you so. And if you don't want to hire me, there are no hard feelings. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would say there is a space for people doing it themselves, especially if you don't have money going into thousands. So you're more like, let's say you only have 100 quid marketing budget a month, or let's say you have 500 quid. There's a space of you learning it and applying it to your business and doing it yourself. Absolutely. But
Yeah.
for anyone that's thinking bigger, go and hire someone.
Yeah, and I mean, Facebook's whole revenue is on ad revenue, and Instagram. It is ad revenue. Their whole
Correct.
multi-billion business.
Yeah, they will take your money. So Facebook doesn't care that you get a relevancy score of 1, and let's say you're spending 100 because it's money into Mark Zuckerberg's pocket, isn't it?
True.
But ultimately, you should be thinking, am I using it to forward my business, to drive it forward? And ask yourself, am I getting results I want?
So I know we've kind of talked about Facebook quite a bit. Let's just how do you see Instagram for if you're a retail shop or you're doing high-end fashion stuff, I can see how for B2B businesses using Instagram, do you think?
It's a tough one, really. It always depends. And if you like, let's say you're a service business to business in service, so something like coaching, for example, can work really well on Instagram. But like, let's say I don't know, you produce bespoke metal for companies like metal railings or whatever. Because I did have an inquiry like that about a year ago. Then I don't think Instagram is right. Like, ultimately, you need to draw a line. How it's a visual platform. First of all, you need to think how can I sell myself visually, and if you can say yes, I can, then this is right for you, and there's a way to do advertising on it. But if you're not, then no. Ultimately, you need to draw a line somewhere, and perhaps there are other ways to reach your audience, maybe LinkedIn.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn at the moment, just because of the way it's delivering for people.
Yes.
But can a high street retail business use LinkedIn, use Instagram to leverage for their business?
Yeah, I would say so. A big untapped territory at the moment are stories, both on Facebook and Instagram. Not many brands are using them in the right way. And even if you get a couple of adverts made specific for stories, because it's so untapped, you are likely to see good results.
Wow. Okay. So coming back to you and your business, how long has the Social Way been in existence so far?
It's been 29th of March 2018, so it's not been that long.
Okay, so you're nearly a year old.
I'm nearly a year old, yes.
So what does the next year look like for you?
So I want to work with more brands. I'm not really niching down in terms of who I work with, because I want to experience variety, if that makes sense. So I work with e-com, I work with sole business owners, I work with coaches, and yeah, it's for me, it's about learning someone's business and how I can add value more than anything. I might niche down, maybe year 2 or year 3, but not at the moment. In terms of what I'm passionate about is, as well as helping bigger businesses, is getting smaller business owners up to speed on Facebook and Instagram, because it is the cheapest and the most effective way of reaching new audience and selling your product. It's way cheaper than anything else I've been involved with, from the agency especially. So I see it as a massive untapped territory. So what I'm doing more and more webinars. So
Yep.
I do like free webinar once a month, and I'm running one on the 28th this month,
Cool.
and it's all about tactics that massive brands use that smaller brands can adopt. So if you want to get involved, then find me on Facebook or Instagram and register, and it's going to be fun. And I'm starting to do workshops that are more bespoke, really. So looking at what business owners done before and how can we move it forward, type of thing. So rather than, because I know hiring someone like me is an expense to a smaller business owners. It's a tussle between spending that 500 quid on someone like me, or getting better food on a plate this month for their family. So I totally get it. So how can I be more cost effective but still add value? And I think workshops are a good way to do it.
I think you're spot on, because I think as all of this, technology's come such a massive distance in the last, I don't know, 10 years. And now we're seeing, Facebook's updating itself, twice, 3 times a year. Mm-hmm. Instagram's updating. I mean, last year, just think of all the features that Instagram added last year.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a different platform than it was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think you're spot on. And we're seeing this more in our own business as well, is we're seeing more people going, I've got all of these tools and I'm seeing all of these advertising for do this, do that, do the other, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, LinkedIn, email marketing, targeted ads on Google and YouTube and pre-roll and da-da-da-da. And it's like, there's too many options now.
Yeah.
There's so many options available. And really what people need to know is not necessarily be sold something else. It's know whether they're getting the best out of what they've already got.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think that knowledge transfer stuff is essential, because you're right. To some businesses, £500 is a lot. If it's a bigger business and you save them money or make their ads more effective, you probably more than pay for yourself. Yeah. But with a smaller business, if they attend a webinar of yours or a course of yours or whatever that looks like, if you can give them enough value that, hypothetically brings their ad costs down by 10, 15, 20%, then they've got more money to spend on ads, which will bring them more revenue.
Yeah.
So I think that whole knowledge transfer economy is going to boom because there's so many options.
I agree. So there is the main reason I've decided to niche down in just Facebook and Instagram is because I see them as like growth platforms. Even though they massive now, they're gonna grow even more. And if you look at the newest feature that Facebook announced they bring in, such as WhatsApp advertising, that's gonna be even bigger. Which blows your mind, really, because how can a behemoth become even bigger? Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But they can, and they're gonna monetize it till it's allowable.
I've worked with a couple of clients on some WhatsApp projects, and WhatsApp's incredible, and we don't see it so much. I think Netflix have started using it as a kind of service reminder tool, which is quite cool. But in India, for an example, WhatsApp is a primary advertising channel for a lot of businesses.
Oh yeah,
it's incredible. But here, it's a bit like SMS messaging. It's not really that popular at the moment. But I can see when Facebook merge all of those messaging channels together, suddenly they've just created a whole new advertising method. Which, on WhatsApp, you can get imagery and everything through, which is fantastic.
Yeah, because ultimately, you've got to think Facebook currency is data, isn't it? That is ultimately what advertisers are paying for, is the access to data and its people.
Yeah. And we have all these privacy concerns, and I know Facebook's had a really rough ride the last 2 years over data issues. But data is the currency these days. The more you know about somebody, the better you can target, and in theory, everybody gets a better experience.
Correct. They are all about experience.
So you reckon the next 2 years is going to be a big growth phase for Facebook and Instagram?
Yeah, I mean, you've mentioned India, and it's interesting one because India and Thailand are two countries that are Facebook testing grounds. So often they would bring new developments over there, and every year in Thailand they have a massive conference about new developments. So what is reality there might be reality for us this year.
Okay, that's
and
cool.
It's a bit of between 6 to 8 months backlog, but it's quite interesting because they're such an early adopters. Whatever works there, they just roll out everywhere else.
No, I didn't know that. I didn't know that the testing ground was India and Thailand. That's really really interesting. And I think I don't know how long this social media age. There's talks of people, coming unplugging, but I'm not sure how well that's going to work in this digital age. I think we're far too connected to be able to literally unplug. Do you think it's possible that we'll end up with an unplugged group, people who abandon social media?
If we talk in a really long term, then I've been reading really, really interesting book recently, and it's by a guy called Yuval Noah Harari. So it's 21 lessons for 21st century. And he argues that there'll come a point that there won't be any advertising on social platforms, but instead they'll find another way to monetize it, and this way they kind of we will become a plug-in somehow to social media platforms because they know so much about us. So we will become supercharged somehow from the biological point of view. And yeah, it's quite scary, but when you read his book, you can see it becoming true.
Well, what we'll do is when I put this up, we'll share the link to the book. So if you send me that link, we'll share that. I guess what this comes down to is people need to learn and really need to know what they're trying to achieve from all of this. When you started your business, you knew what you wanted to achieve. You knew you wanted to start a social business. You knew you wanted to be helping people on Facebook and Instagram. And I think the lesson for us all is if we don't understand, and this is relevant for ads or it's relevant for any social marketing channel whatsoever, is if you don't know who your customer is, you're really screwed.
Yeah, totally. And I think, so there is an argument that, when you first start, you want to reach everyone and anyone, but you have to narrow it down at some point, because otherwise, how much money are you going to waste? And it's across big brands that are spending into millions, but it's across smaller brands, and arguably for the smaller, it's even more important.
Yeah, because if you've only got 500 quid and you waste half of it on the wrong people, it's a huge impact. So this has been really interesting, Aleks. This has been fascinating. What I would love to do is also share your webinar, because I think it would be really good for people to get to know you and know what you're doing and get some value from you. And maybe you can help them in the future. Maybe you just send them along with some tips and it changes their thinking and they go on and do really, really well. But maybe they just go, do you know what, Aleks, I need Aleks on my team. So that's been fascinating, and we will share the link. So
because ultimately, I think, even though sometimes I do work with massive brands, ultimately we can all learn from it. And they have the money to test things, don't they? So this next webinar is all about 5 tips you can learn from massive brands and apply to your own.
And that's smart, really, because coming from your background, you've learned all the big industry insights and tips, and you can pass them down to people that wouldn't know these things, wouldn't be able to get access to things. And I don't mean this in the way it sounds, but Facebook's interested in big books, and we all know. If you spend a certain amount with Facebook, you will get phone calls from them. You will be able to ring them up and chat to them, and they will help you. But if you're a micro business and your budget's 500 quid a month, very rarely will you get to speak to anybody. You'll fill in those forms and hope somebody comes back with an answer that makes sense.
Yeah, correct.
So I guess that's where you come in. There's your shameless plug. So, Aleks, this has been fantastic. I wish you every success in your journey on this with the social way. I think it's incredible that you're launching a business. You've got a young daughter who's got medical things that you're caring for, and so many people are in that scenario of going, well, now is it the right time? Should I be doing this right now?
And that's the thing. It's never right time.
Yeah,
it's never the right time. If you want to do it, just do it. Because I've read something interesting yesterday. People have this attitude about traveling. Oh yeah, I'll just go traveling for a few months. I can always come back. Or let me live in Australia for a bit and get a job there. I can always come back. But if it comes to a business, people procrastinate, and they're like, when is the right time? There isn't. But you can always go back. You can always go back to employment. If this isn't for you, there are jobs out there. So yeah, it's a leap of faith that I've taken, and some people do.
Yeah, and it comes back to that saying you said earlier, which is about the net. What was this thing you said about the net? You jump and the net
will appear.
And the net will appear.
Yeah.
And so many people just, they've got brilliant ideas and they just need to step out and have a go. And by having a go, you learn and you survive and you get through some scrapes and bumps, but you come out the other side. And as much as, running your own business can be stressful and challenging, there's a buzz about it as well. It's really, really exciting.
Yeah. I mean, look at someone like Facebook, right? Like Mark Zuckerberg started it 15 years ago and 2 weeks, something like that, to a date. So if he was procrastinating, he wouldn't have done it. But within the first year, so 2004, he ended a year with 1 million customers, 1 million followers.
Crazy,
that is just amazing. And now look at him and this multi-billion-dollar company, right? That is still growing. That is still evolving and changing, really.
Yeah, and despite all of his billions, he still wears the same T-shirt and jeans.
Well, it works. It works.
Yeah. Cool. This has been awesome. Guys, thanks for listening. We'll put all of Alex's details here and access to a webinar and the book we talked about. Aleks, you've been a superstar. We need to chat again because there's so much more we can talk about. Thanks for listening, everybody. And I'll catch you all soon.
Thanks. Bye now.